the sperm whale leaped into the air, its massive body rising slowly to mid-air, and instantly smashed the cruise ship into two halves, causing people on board to fall into the water. Following that, a group of orcas gathered around the area, guiding tourists and dragging them underwater. At this moment, people were still unaware that this disaster was only the beginning. On the other side of the Norwegian Sea, fishermen were busy collecting their nets to catch fish, but the nets got caught on a reef and couldn't be pulled out. He jumped into the sea to cut the fishing net, but to his surprise, a dark shadow appeared above him. A large wave of sea fish surrounded him, and the fisherman was instantly engulfed. Less than 24 hours later, a massive beach sperm whale, a fully grown male weighing 30 tons, washed ashore. It would not be easily killed. Marine biologist Leon decided to interview the local fisherman. The old man took him to see the fishing boat from this morning, which had enormous impact marks on it. The old man claimed that they were attacked by a sperm whale while at sea, and the fishermen had to defend themselves. However, the weapons they had on their boat were useless against a fully grown sperm whale, and the true cause of its death remained to be investigated. Leon knew well that these creatures rarely attacked humans, and the migration time of the sperm whales was delayed this season, indicating that something had changed in the ocean. On the other side, Mary, in charge of underwater exploration, also encountered an accident. While performing her routine work, she noticed a flashing signal light and had to dive into the seabed to investigate. It turned out that the underwater vehicle was entangled in a fishing net. While Mary was trying to free it, she sensed that something was amiss in the seabed. She immediately surfaced holding the craft in her arms, only to find that the boat had drifted not far away. Mary secured the underwater vehicle and quickly swam back to the boat. This incident left her feeling uneasy, so she immediately informed her colleague Jean about it upon their return. After inspecting the underwater vehicle, Jean discovered that the insulation layer had melted, a highly unusual occurrence. Jean believed that it was due to Mary's inadequate pre-checks and didn't pay much attention to it. The next day, Mary had to relaunch a new device, and her date Doug insisted on joining her. They placed the underwater vehicle in the sea and prepared to return, but Doug noticed a white unidentified object on the surface of the water. Mary reacted by grabbing a harpoon and hooking a piece of the object, lit it up with a lighter. Doug was frightened by the flames. Mary smiled and said it was methane hydrate, commonly known as fire ice, not some mysterious species. The next second, she couldn't laugh anymore, because there was a large area of fire ice floating on the sea surface. Mary took out her phone to record it and sent it back to the headquarters research institute. The professor was very concerned about the situation and instructed Mary to closely monitor the area and report any new developments promptly. On the other side, Leon was still investigating the sperm whale incidents. That day, he noticed several whales returning to this area simultaneously. Leon immediately prepared his equipment and set sail. At the same time, the first tourist boat had already departed. Leon closely monitored the underwater situation. Soon, a sperm whale approached the small boat. Without displaying any aggressive behavior, Leon finally relaxed, but he soon picked up a new sound. There were 4 orcas swimming on the sea surface, heading straight towards a nearby tourist boat. Leon was afraid of an incident and immediately followed. Just as the passengers were captivated by the orcas, the gigantic sperm whale dived nearby. It leaped out of the water, creating massive splashes. The tourists screamed with excitement, waiting for the next round of breaches. Leon sensed something was wrong. He immediately sounded the alarm, but it was too late for everything. The massive sperm whale leaped again. It crashed heavily into the tourist boat. All the tourists fell into the water. The orcas surrounding them immediately rushed towards the people. Leon drove his boat to rescue them. However, the orcas kept pulling the tourists underwater. Leon witnessed his friend being dragged into the deep sea. This disaster attracted significant attention. Marine scientists from various places rushed to the scene. They wanted to figure out the cause of the whale attacks on humans. Professor Sigel had a lot of experience. He observed the seabed through underwater exploration. He saw a frowning methane layer on the seafloor. Countless ice worms were crawling on it, feeding on bacterial mats. There was also a strange sound coming from the sea. Sigel was about to investigate closely. Suddenly, the detection light went out. It flickered for a while before returning to normal. No one knew what happened during the blackout. Sigel had to take samples of the ice worms for analysis. He discovered that these worms had grown teeth and jaws. Furthermore, the ice worms were broadcast spawners. Only a few of them could successfully fertilize. This also indicated that they couldn't reproduce in large numbers in a short period. not to mention such a massive gathering as the current one. After repeated testing and observation by experts, it was speculated that the ice worms grew teeth and chose for feeding purposes because they had to continuously burrow into the methane ice layer, consuming the bacterial mats inside. However, the strange thing was that the ice worms kept burrowing deeper until they suffocated and died. This is a self-destructive behavior. This type of ice worms is definitely a new species. Sigel continued to monitor the conditions of the seabed. He was startled to find that the ice worms were growing larger. The staff opened the drill and went deeper. Unexpectedly, the machine suddenly went out of control and couldn't stop. Immediately, the entire exploration ship began to sway. The sea level was tumultuous with waves. It must have been the rock-cutting machine drilling through the seabed, resulting in a massive release of methane. Fortunately, they were not on a small boat. Otherwise, they would have been swept to the bottom of the sea. Based on subsequent observations, Sigel and others discovered, although the worms that burrowed into the ice layer had died, they released a certain type of bacteria that could continue to go deeper. The methane released by the ice worms was not enough to reach the atmosphere. No need to worry about the greenhouse effect. Meanwhile, an old Japanese man found Leon, saying that his ship had also been attacked by a sperm whale. Leon went to inspect the large vessel. He found the ship covered in barnacles. However, the ship was clean when it departed from Tokyo. Leon picked up a barnacle to examine it. He was filled with doubts in his heart. In another coastal city, 5-star, Chef David personally went to the market to purchase ingredients. He selected several plump lobsters and brought them back to the kitchen for preparation. Unexpectedly, one of them vomited a lot of mucus. The chef was about to observe carefully, but he was sprayed in the face by the lobster. He quickly asked the sous chef to clean it up. The sous chef took the lobster and passed it to the assistant. The sous chef turned to clean the mucus on the cutting board. The female assistant threw the lobster into the sink to rinse it. As a result, she was also sprayed with mucus all over her body. The kitchen during mealtime was like a battlefield. In the evening, the chef suddenly had trembling hands and was sweating profusely. He handed over the remaining dishes to the sous chef. He went outside the restaurant to catch some fresh air. Unexpectedly, the chef fell to the ground. A pool of black blood emerged. The next day, the sous chef was also taken to the hospital. The symptoms were similar to those of the chef who died suddenly. Medical professor Jenny couldn't find the cause of the illness. She could only search for clues in the restaurant. She learned that the patients had all come into contact with strange lobsters. Apart from the chef and sous chef, another female assistant had also come into contact with lobster mucus, but this lobster has been thrown. Jenny had no choice but to look for the female assistant. She discovered that the assistant hadn't locked the door. Just then, she received an urgent phone call. Her colleague said that the sous chef had suddenly fallen ill and had died on the spot. Jenny didn't respond. She slowly pushed open the bedroom door. The female assistant was lying on the ground. A pool of black blood was flowing. Mary sent a birthday email to her friend Lisa. The recipient was very happy after reading it. She was planning to record a video as a reply. However, her laptop suddenly malfunctioned. The detection device behind her made strange noises. It captured a strange audio recording. Immediately after, the sea's surface started to boil. It engulfed the entire ship into the water. Mary was shocked upon receiving the news. The Norwegian Coast Guard was conducting a full-scale rescue operation. She could only wait for updates on the rescue operation. On the other side, Jenny took the assistant's blood sample back for research. She discovered the presence of a strain of Vibrio vulnificus bacteria. This bacteria produces toxins upon contact with blood. The human body contains cells that can neutralize this bacteria. Therefore, infection is not necessarily fatal. However, the Vibrio vulnificus in the assistant's body was consuming blood at an alarming rate. This is likely a new strain of bacteria. Several restaurants have already been affected. As long as all infected individuals die, Jenny is currently unaware. The situation is far more serious than she imagined. In a car wash nearby, a man was amusing a customer's child. Suddenly, he began coughing uncontrollably. He suddenly vomited a large pool of black blood. He collapsed to the ground and died. Obviously, he was also infected with the new strain of Vibrio vulnificus. Subsequently, more and more people became infected. Moreover, these patients had not consumed seafood. While everyone was perplexed, Jenny suddenly thought of something. The assistant had crushed the lobster in the sink before. It's possible that the bacteria entered the water supply through the sewage system. Everyone must stop using tap water. Meanwhile, Leon took the mussels on the ship for testing. They found that their size was twice the normal range. Mussels can only swim when they are in their larval stage. Their reproductive rate is not rapid. However, the ship had been sailing for 18 days. The hull was covered with thousands of mussels. They sent the samples to a biological laboratory for sequencing to investigate whether this was a mutation or a new species. Just then, Leon's colleague discovered there was mucus mixed in one of the mussel shells. She asked the staff to take it for testing. As the investigation deepened, Leon felt that recent events were not simple. He decided to dissect the whale carcass to confirm if pollutants were affecting its behavior. Leon found a small blood clot in the whale's brainstem. It was also coated with a small amount of mucus. Further testing is needed. At this moment, apart from issues with whales and ice worms, among others, the water city of Venice also experienced a sudden incident. Countless jellyfish gathered at the bottom of the water. In the blink of an eye, they occupied the entire Adriatic Sea. Sigurd deeply understood that this was a challenging period. He submitted the information he had on hand to a Japanese maritime foundation because they were dedicated to solving environmental pollution through biological means. After Mr. Mimura, the boss of the company, saw the information, he was surprised by the mutation of the ice worms. His subordinates suggested that the company's vessels stay away from the areas where the ice worms were found. Currently, the only people who know about the mutated species are them and the capital of the Netherlands. Mimura didn't understand why Sigurd didn't make it public. After all, discovering a new species is a significant achievement. He instructed his subordinates to investigate and find out. On the other side, Mary received a call from her colleague. They said they found Lisa's Juno underwater. She immediately returned to headquarters. The search and rescue team found the footage from the underwater robot. Everyone hurriedly opened it, wanting to know what exactly happened. Mary and the others stared nervously at the screen. The camera gradually approached the ship. Everyone's face showed a shocked expression. They noticed a glowing object behind the ship. Leon also made a major breakthrough. He connected the locations where the ships were attacked on the map. He suddenly realized that it was the migration route of the whales. It seems that the cause of the whales' mutation lies in their migration. He immediately boarded a boat and approached the gathering point of the whales. The sperm whales beneath the sea surface were in a deep sleep. Leon had only 15 minutes. He rapidly approached the whales and installed a camera on one of them. Unexpectedly, all the whales woke up. They surround Leon. The enormous body creates waves in the sea. Fortunately, Leon is a good swimmer. He immediately climbs onto a small boat. His colleagues quickly turn back. The sperm whale emerges from the sea surface. It crashes onto the spot where the boat was just located. If it had been a split second faster, Leon wouldn't have survived. The next day, he picks up a signal. It indicates that the camera has detached from the whale. He immediately sets sail to retrieve it. He calls his colleagues to watch the footage together. Everyone discovers that the whale dives into the depths of the sea, and they gather around a cluster of light points. It appears as if they are communicating with something. Leon is puzzled by this. Among the marine organisms known to humans, no species can emit such sustained light. It's challenging to find an answer to this matter, so it is temporarily set aside. The laboratory announces that the results of the mussel testing are available. They explain this type of mussel has been found all over the world. After conducting DNA tests on various samples from different locations, they discovered that the genetic barcodes are identical. It appeared simultaneously in different locations, and new species emerged together. Additionally, the mucus in the whale's brainstem is identical to the components leaked by the mussels. To conduct further research, more samples are required because the components of the mussel's mucus decompose upon contact with air. Leon has no choice but to secretly infiltrate the Tsunami Corporation. He wants to collect more mussels. However, as soon as he sneaks in, he is caught by a security guard. This incident alarms the company headquarters. Leon has no choice but to inform the Japanese about it. The new species of mussels on the ship originated in Tokyo, and they have also appeared in other marine areas. To avoid disrupting the company's shipping operations, leader Sato agrees to provide samples. However, Leon must hand over the relevant information about the mussel. Later, Sato informs Tsunami about this matter. First, there were the new ice worms. Now, mutated mussels have emerged as well. Tsunami is naturally worried about this. Let's take a look at the progress with the ice worms. Sigurd installs the high-altitude detector to observe the seabed. Unexpectedly, all the ice worms have disappeared. Only the traces of machine excavation remain on the ground. Sigurd suspects that it was the doing of Tina's company, because a few weeks ago, they sent a ship for extraction. He is now very angry. After all, Siegel didn't disclose the ice worms solely to assist his goddess Tina in completing her research paper. However, they firmly claim ignorance of the situation. Siegel wants to make the illegal extraction public, but a colleague professor suggests Tina's company must have made thorough preparations. They might even use excavation testing as an excuse. They have likely obtained permits. When this thing is over, there won't be any positive outcome. It can only end in failure. While everything is in chaos, Ginny reports the vibrio bacteria incident to her superiors. She hopes they will warn the public not to come into contact with tap water, drink only boiled water or bottled water, and suspend all fishing activities along the Atlantic coast. Marley, among them, expresses opposition. Suspending fishing would impact the coastal city's economy. Ginny tries to convince them that the faster the bacteria spreads, the greater the economic impact. But this person refuses to accept the advice. Ginny is already overwhelmed. Unexpectedly, South Africa experiences a crab incident. A young couple is being intimate on the beach. Suddenly, the woman is caught by a crab. She looks terrified towards the sea. Countless small crabs rush to the shore. She quickly poos her boyfriend and runs away. The two of them hop on a motorcycle and speed away. Suddenly, the boyfriend slams on the brakes, and she is thrown off and falls to the ground. The camera slowly zooms out. The white crabs have already surrounded the entire town. The ground is hardly visible, and this matter is still escalating. Due to the rising sea temperature, crabs are invading Rio de Janeiro, Okinawa, Mumbai, and Tangier one after another. The whole world is in danger. Mary leaves the headquarters and returns to the survey station. She opens her computer to organize her emails. Unexpectedly, she sees a reply from Lisa. Lisa is reflecting on her 30th birthday. The video is intermittent due to poor signal, but Mary can't help but shed tears. At that moment, she noticed the window in the painting. There seems to be a glowing spot outside the cabin. Mary suddenly realizes something. She quickly retrieves the audio recorded by the robot from the sunken ship and compares it with the distorted audio in Lisa's video. The two waveforms surprisingly match. She immediately contacts the professor at the headquarters. Coincidentally, Siegel is also reporting about the ice worms. She decides to join the video conference. Mary shares her latest discovery with them and explains that a few hours before the sinking of the Juno, the surrounding water temperature suddenly increased. Perhaps the high temperature melted the hydrates on the sea floor, thus triggering a methane blowout. If they dive into the deep sea and install cameras, they might be able to reach a conclusion. The professor sternly stops Mary upon hearing this. He says that even if the hydrothermal vented open, it would cool down before reaching the sea surface. There is no force on Earth that could bring that much water from the vent all the way up to the Juno. He orders Mary to guard the survey station. After completing the mission, she should quickly return to the team. The other person feels very disappointed after hearing this. Siegel thinks that Mary's hypothesis is worth a try. In fact, the professor also partially agrees, but she has already lost Lisa and Jean. She doesn't want to see Mary taking risks as well. After leaving the headquarters, Siegel tries to contact Tina. Unexpectedly, she has already resigned. It seems that she indeed doesn't know about the mining operation. Then Siegel calls Sato. He wants to use his help to contact the ICPO because he believes that the ice worms, jellyfish, and lobsters surely have some kind of connection. Further funding is needed for investigation. Upon hearing this, Sato recalls the incident with the mutated mussels, so he gives Siegel Leo's contact information. On the other side, Ginny gathers a batch of crabs. She extracts some crab paste for testing. It indeed contains Vibrio vulnificus. Ginny has discussed with laboratories in South Africa, Brazil, and Japan. She is preparing to conduct DNA sequencing on all the crabs that come ashore, and based on the characteristics, such as their shells and lack of eyes, it can be inferred that they live underwater, and they are close to hydrothermal vents. They must have come ashore due to some kind of mutation. Siegel contacts Leo. Leo briefly explains the situation with the mussels and whales, and he mentions detecting the same organic substance in both cases. They have 100 common molecular compounds between them. This substance is likely to be the culprit affecting both mussels and whales. One person is in Europe, and the other is in Canada. Yet they have encountered such similar problems. What secrets does the dark ocean hide? The whole thing is becoming more and more interesting. Later, Siegel returns home to rest. Unexpectedly, he sees Tina, who has resigned. She plans to take some time to travel around. Siegel doesn't muster the courage to persuade her to stay. He can only watch Tina leave, feeling disappointed. Shortly after, he receives a video sent by Leo. The audio in it is extremely similar to when the Juno sank. Perhaps Mary's ideas were not wrong. Everything is related to the eruption and flow of water. He immediately contacts the professor. He prepares to install cameras on the seabed. Siegel takes a helicopter to reach the destination. He gave Leon's video to the other party to watch. Mary is very happy. Her ideas have been validated. After assigning the task to her, Siegel plans to leave. At this moment, their colleagues discover a tsunami warning. He immediately contacts Mary on the coast. However, her phone is not with her. Mary is preparing to accompany her boyfriend Doug outside. Siegel is also about to take off. Fortunately, he receives a call from the professor. The professor warns him to immediately go to higher ground. At the same time, Tina is on another coastline. A large group of seagulls fly restlessly, indicating an impending disaster. Finally, Mary realizes that something is wrong. Siegel behind her is shouting for her to go back. However, Doug's car is still moving forward. Mary can't watch him die. She chases after him. Seeing this, Siegel quickly grabs her. He successfully saves Mary, but he doesn't know that Tina, the one he loves, has no way to escape. She is facing a towering wave. In an instant, the seawater engulfs the entire survey station. When Siegel receives Tina's message, he learns that she has already perished. Countless people perish in the tsunami, and the whole world is enveloped in sorrow. Jeannie also went public with the Vibrio issue. She suggests that everyone temporarily evacuate the coastline. However, the fishermen refuse to leave their homes. After seeing the news, Siegel decides to meet with Jeannie, Leo, and others. All the protagonists from different storylines finally gather. Everyone suspects the presence of a highly intelligent life form in the ocean. It is secretly pushing everything forward, but it also means overturning everything they know. They cannot find the truth within existing science. Instead, they must step into a completely new realm. After intense discussion, everyone rests. Siegel notices that Leo is wearing a unique bracelet. It has a strange pattern on it. Leo doesn't know what it means either. The bracelet was given to him by his mother when he was very young. Leo is a native of the coastline. The bracelet might have been retrieved from the sea. Siegel repeatedly studies the pattern on it. Gradually, he deciphers a few letters. YRR. However, he cannot unravel its mystery. The next day, Siegel plans to submit a proposal to the ICPO, requesting research funding. They argue that the recent disasters are interconnected. The mutated marine creatures are attempting to drive humanity inland. They aim to occupy all the coastlines, and the driving force behind all this is a completely unknown, highly intelligent species. Siegel names it YRR. The ICPO officials are initially unable to accept this. After all, such a claim is too far-fetched. The main characters have done their best to convince others. However, the council did not approve their mission. Meanwhile, a bystander astrophysicist named Lucy observed the whale sounds captured by Leo, discovered that the tones and frequencies had a rhythmic pattern. This could possibly be an unknown language. Lucy searched through known records. Surprisingly, she found similar signals in Antarctica and the Arctic Ocean. Lucy developed a strong interest in YRR. She was willing to join the main group. Meanwhile, Mr. Bifuna contacted Siegel proactively. He highly appreciated Siegel's proposal, and he was willing to fund Siegel's research. The funding issue was finally resolved. Siegel set sail 48 hours later. No one knew if they would come back alive. Therefore, Siegel gave everyone time to consider. If they were unwilling to take the risk, they could withdraw in time. Everyone hurriedly went home to meet their loved ones, afraid that they might never see each other again. Not long after, people near the coast received the passenger list. An unknown adventure was about to begin. Siegel and the others board the ship together and head towards the polar regions. Lucy plays the audio frequencies discovered in the Arctic and Antarctic. She explains that organisms only send signals to familiar places. If YRR also possesses this characteristic, then the locations where it frequently emits signals are likely the breeding grounds of YRR. Based on existing data, Leo speculates that it is hiding at depths of at least 5 to 5 kilometers. Due to the reduction of sea ice, only the Malloy Deep Sea in the Arctic meets this depth requirement. This location happens to be a hotspot for audio frequency signals. The captain states that ice scatters and absorbs sound. Before reaching the Malloy Deep area, it is best to thoroughly inspect the equipment. Everyone has their assigned roles on the ship. Lucy and Leo constantly monitor the equipment for communication tests, sending the message to the seafloor that we can hear sounds. They observe if there will be any response. They attempt to establish a communication bridge. Janie and Siegel are responsible for studying how YRR invades other species. They start with neural tissue to find a way to reverse the infection in organisms. Lastly, Mary, with her extensive experience in underwater operations, is intensively training with the submersible. The ship quickly reaches a glacier-covered area. Lucy broadcasts the intercepted sounds back to the seabed. She includes a segment of a baby's crying sound within the broadcast. When YRR receives the signal, it will understand that they are not just playing back, but attempting to establish contact. Ginny and Siegel have also made a breakthrough. They believe that YRR attacks the NMDA receptors on nerve cells, which is a type of glutamate, acting as satellite antennas for neural communication, instructing the body on how to respond. Glutamate, on the other hand, is an NMDA receptor agonist. YRR injects glutamate into organisms to stimulate the NMDA receptors, thereby controlling the movements of lobsters and crabs, similar to a puppeteer pulling the strings of a puppet. On the other side, Mary follows the professional Kelly. As they dive together in a submersible, they gradually descend into the depths of the sea. Mary sees a red dot on the instrument panel. Kelly is also unsure of what it could be. Sun, the captain, also notices abnormal sonar readings. At the same time, Leo captures a strange audio recording, which had the inserted sound of a baby crying during playback. It undergoes a noticeable change. Indeed, there are highly intelligent creatures in the depths of the sea. They are responding to the signals. As the saying goes, abnormal occurrences often indicate the presence of something extraordinary. Kelly realizes that the submersible has lost contact with the mothership. They immediately start to return on the same path. Just as they are about to reach the ship, Mary sees a glowing object on the seabed. She returns to the cabin. Kelly thinks it's just an illusion, considering that seawater and ice can affect the light. However, the accompanying girl, Nina, thinks it makes sense. The next moment, she sees a patch of blue light underwater. Shortly after, the lights on the entire ship start to flicker. They even go out for a few seconds. When it lights up again, the captain checks the monitor. He discovers that Nina has collapsed near the diving spot. Everyone quickly rushes to provide first aid. Jenny gently touches the person's mouth and nose. She feels a small amount of cerebrospinal fluid. The protective membranes of the person's brain and spinal cord may be damaged. She immediately starts first aid. Although Nina is temporarily out of immediate danger, red spots appear on her arms and legs. Jenny immediately performs a lumbar puncture to examine the fluid in her spinal column. Meanwhile, Lucy mentions that during a power surge, there was a low-frequency sound below audibility. The strange thing is that the sound came from inside the ship. She hands over the information to the captain to see if they can find the source. However, the captain checks every department, but doesn't find the source of the signal. On the other side, Jeannie's tests yield results. She found substances from other infected organisms in the spinal fluid. YRR is attempting to invade Nina's nervous system. They must have come into contact. Mary quickly mentions that when the submersible returned, she saw a glowing object. Perhaps it entered the cabin with the equipment. The captain immediately seals off the diving area to prevent further injuries. Lucy wants to make a friendly gesture towards YRR. She transmits a signal that we all evolved from the ocean, hoping to establish a connection. After several long hours pass, Lucy finally receives a response. Meanwhile, Mary is standing outside the quarantine zone, staring blankly at the diving spot. Suddenly, dots of blue light emerge from the water surface. They continuously transform into various marine creatures, frolicking and swimming in the water. Upon receiving the notification, Zombu immediately arrives on the ship by helicopter. Siegel shows the footage to the others and explains that the luminescent single-celled organisms in the water are the YRR. They are merging into larger multicellular clusters. They can't change shape and density at will. They are definitely a previously unseen species. Then, Lucy retrieves the signal they received yesterday. After processing the waves into images, she obtains an image of an ocean surrounding a supercontinent. It depicts the scene when the continents of the Earth merged 250 million years ago. YRR must possess some form of collective memory. That's why they can remember images from the Pentalassic era. Mary believes that the YRR is warning humans. It implies that they have a much longer history than humans. Even though we share a common ancestor, we must not let humans destroy their environment. However, since the YRR responded, it means there is still room for reconciliation. Everyone immediately collects water from the diving site into the laboratory. They They prepare to study the YRR carefully. Meanwhile, Leon releases a recording of whale sounds into the ocean. Because we have banned the hunting of whales since the 1960s, we have successfully prevented their extinction. He wanted to convey to the YRR under the sea through this audio. At this moment, the captain is summoned to meet Mr. Sanbu. The other party shows him a video. There has been a tsunami in Lagos, Nigeria. The first mate's family has all perished. The captain returns to the control room with a heavy heart. He calls the first mate to the deck. Everyone looks outside through the glass. A heart lifted into my throat. The first mate takes off his hat and weeps. A somber atmosphere engulfs the ship. Meanwhile, Jamie is engrossed in testing medications. She is trying to find a way to treat Nina. After relentless efforts, she discovers that ketamine can kill the substances produced by YRR. The people on Sanbu's side want to continue testing to see if they can completely exterminate the YRR. However, Siegel and others want to resolve the situation peacefully. And moreover, if the YRR are killed hastily, it might cause significant harm to the ocean. In the end, Ginny makes the decision. They will continue testing the effectiveness of ketamine to confirm if it can be strategically used in order to minimize damage to the ocean. Everyone changes into protective suits and starts the experiment. Ginny puts different doses of ketamine into the diving site. Kelly accompanies her. The entire water surface starts to stir. Countless cells unite, slowly rising into the air. They extend towards the cabin like icicles. Shortly after, a piercing sound is heard. All the glass and light bulbs on the ship shatter. The entire cabin falls into darkness. Kelly falls into the water and dies. The ship loses its power, and ahead lies a glacier. The situation is extremely urgent. The captain instructs the assistant to send a distress signal. The next moment, the ship collides with a small glacier, and all the YRR gather beneath the ship. They push the protagonist's ship forward. They must have heard the dying signal of their kind, so they want to retaliate. There are 13.5 trillion liters of water in the ocean. Now, it's not something that can be solved by pouring some ketamine. Siegel deeply understands that peace must be sought at this moment, because the YRR have pushed the ship next to the glacier, and have pushed all the surrounding sea ice towards the vessel, trapping Siegel and the others. Siegel asks Ginny, who has children at home, and the injured person, Nana, to board and leave. Lucy goes back to repair the communication equipment. She tries to broadcast a friendly signal. Mary activates the submersible, carrying Kelly's body. She enters the deep sea to apologize and seek forgiveness. Under the remote command of the captain, she calmly descends. As the submersible goes deeper, the signals captured by the communication equipment become stronger. This means that Mary has found the breeding ground of the YRR. At this moment, the submersible is surrounded by countless cellular clusters. The signal with the mothership is intermittent. Siegel cannot contact them. Mary makes up her mind to take off her coat. Instead of throwing Kelly's body out as planned, she chooses a more sincere approach. Mary injects YRR extract into her own heart, allowing it to invade her body cells. Then she opens the hatch. The seawater floods into the submersible, submerging Mary. Her body floats out of the cabin. The YRR seem to sense the others' sacrificial act. They understand that humans are apologizing for the earlier murder. They surround Mary completely, then they move the glacier away. The liberated ship illuminates the seabed. The colorful YRR support the unconscious Mary. Shortly after, the coast returns to calm. After a wave, Mary is pushed to the shore. She slowly opens her eyes, and her pupils emit a bright blue light. The movie ends here. This film is an adaptation of a best-selling German novel. The production team consists mainly of German and British teams. Therefore, the overall effect is very steady. If you like my channel, please subscribe to my channel.